Okay, we are live. Excellent. I get the feeling your stuff is going to come in upside down to us, Scott.
Is it
Give you a
really?
technical.
Is that
I
upside
get
down? No, that's not a.
your
No.
yeah. It's upside down to
Wait, wait,
me.
wait. Why is it? Oh, there we go.
Now it's
Okay.
not.
That should be right.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that correct?
That is correct. If it's the number of digits you
Okay.
expected.
Sorry. See, and I'm a not a crass person. I did not only show you one finger. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Is that it? Is that right? Like, quit
yeah,
quit
yeah. Is
giving
this
me
right? How
details.
about this?
Yeah.
Um. So uh, I'll tell you this, Ellis. I don't know if you knew this or not. I'm going to be on vacation next week.
I did know it, and I know you're going to be around Celebration, Florida. Make sure you try to run into Adam Wu and get on the show so I can look at you.
Well, not with the Daily Woo. I'm going to track him to.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh! Since you've been talking about, since you and I were talking about him that one day, and you were telling me, oh yeah, all he does is talk about like, hey, look, a cat. Oh, and look, here's a
Yeah,
sign. Look, this
there's a
sign. It says
duck.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
There's a duck. First off, we've been watching him, and I think my wife has probably watched more of his videos than I have.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Which is
but
great because, I mean, anytime a guy can figure out the other demographic, he's ahead of the game
oh
then.
yeah, oh absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, and we're going. My wife and I are going to. We're going to go to Pensacola, Florida, which is up in the Panhandle, which is where my father was from. We're going to take my mom because I have relatives there, and we're going to see relatives. I know that's your favorite thing to do is see relatives, long lost relatives,
Oh, yeah.
and and virtual strangers to hang
Hmm.
out with virtual strangers. So we're gonna do that for a couple days. I'm gonna go. We're gonna go. My old boss lives out there. We're gonna go by and see him,
Oh, cool.
and then Michelle and I are gonna get on a. We're gonna rent a car, and then we're gonna next Friday we're gonna get on a plane and fly from Pensacola to Orlando, which sounds ridiculous because it's in the same state, but it's about 6.5 hours away,
Sure. Big, big.
and it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper to fly there without a rental car and not have a rental car for the remainder for the next week because we're going to be there for a week and not quite a week, but then it would be to keep the rental car, either turn it in at the wrong place where they charge a fee,
Mhm.
or keep the rental car and just pay for the days. So flying is actually the cheapest way to do this, and as far as I'm concerned, the easiest because that drive is horrible. We've done that
Sure.
drive. It's a long drive like that on a trip like this just wears me out. It wore me
Sure.
out 15 years ago we did this, or 10 years ago we did this, and uh, so that's kind of our plan is to do that, and then we're gonna drive. We're flying to Orlando, and then Michelle and I are gonna go to Disney World. Michelle is Michelle is disappointed because she's been watching these videos about how busy Disney World is,
Hmm.
and
Well, yeah, it wasn't for a while, but
and
now it's like all bets are off. We're just ignoring that
oh
COVID crap.
yeah, yep, yep. And so she's like, oh, and I'm like, no, no, no. She's looking at the wrong way
Yep.
because I'm reminding her we've been to Disney World before, probably a dozen times before. Uh, we heck last time we went she had a sinus infection and was out of it the whole time, so it's going to be better than that.
Yeah.
But also I said, this is you've got to remember this isn't our first time, so it won't be our last time, barring some kind of weird accident, but it probably won't
Hmm.
be our last time because we go on vacations. And I said, this is the pandemic vacation. I told her a few weeks ago we went somewhere, went to a store, and there was nothing in the store. And I said, you know what? Everything's gonna suck for about 5 years. That's my prediction, if not longer. I didn't say that, but But I mean, I just think that just between the pandemic and inflation and the damage that politicians are doing to our economy, it's going to take about 5 years for things to get to where it's like, oh, this doesn't blow,
Well,
you
that's the
know,
deal, though. It seems like it's
you
being
know,
planned to make it
accelerated.
the end times. Basically, they have. I saw a video that, if it's accurate, makes you think, hey, we need to just step up and do something now. They've gone crazy. They've printed more money in the past 2 years than they printed in the entire history of the country. So allegedly, according to this video, and it seemed, they were, naturally you see a graph, you say, wow. And, it's like, well, maybe they're making this up. But I can believe it, because when you change the bracket to trillion instead of billion, it goes up, geometrically, and all of a sudden you're talking trillions,
Yep.
and it's
Well,
like, that's crap. You can't do that arbitrarily like that.
well,
It,
yeah. Well, yeah. So
and go ahead.
it's funny that you say this, because I had
Hmm.
this theory. Well, I mean, there's nothing funny about it, but I kind of had this. I had this theory that uh, Y2. I mean, you were around during Y2K, and you
Yeah,
remember it was a
sure.
big deal. Y2K. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, Y2K, Y2K, Y2K. I'm convinced, half seriously, that somehow the Y2K happened,
Pardon me.
and, and that we've gone off track somewhere. You can talk about it from a dimensional. We've slipped into an alternate dimension. We've gone down a bad path. You can talk about it spiritually, psychologically,
Uh-huh.
abstractly, symbolically. But I'm convinced that that we the Y2K bug did us in, and really the first salvo was 9/11. And
Mm.
9/11 did a couple things. One of which was it allowed our government, and it convinced
Yep.
people that they were okay with the government spying on them and
Hmm.
doing, and it allowed our government to say, we can do whatever we want in the name of
Patriotism,
security.
Patriot Act. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, the Patriot Act, the most misnamed
Yep.
bill ever.
Yep. No, I
Yeah,
completely agree with you. And
and I thought
what's
that
to
at the
be done
time, by the
about
way.
it? Nothing. I can't think of anything that can be done about it. Anybody that even gets in
Well,
there that's of the like mind will find it impossible to roll back. If he, when I say he, I'm obviously talking Trump. The moment he
yeah.
displays the tendency, he'll get a pushback for every inch he gets, you know,
Well,
corrected.
but I think that what well, I'm optimistic, but I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
because
good.
stuff always swings back and forth. I mean,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
mean,
yeah, but
yeah,
they fairly often have to just crash and burn and cause death and chaos to correct, and that is very common for corrections.
oh,
So,
oh, absolutely. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't say I had a solution. I just feel like, and so that brings me to
okay.
another conversation where because I was asking you guys if you'd ever read Ringworld,
Uh huh.
and the genesis of that statement was, I'm a member of, I think it's a Reddit group. I think there's a Reddit group and a Facebook group called Cassette Futurism.
Hmm.
And cassette futurism is basically aesthetics of the 70s sci-fi. In other
Hmm.
words, it's like Sid Mead fits in it really well, especially during that time period, or his, just kind of this, everything's kind of swoopy and plastic,
Yeah.
but
Sid
there's
is
no,
trying. Yeah, he's trying to look forward, but he's very much stuck with what he knows about, and fairly
Yes.
often he's got stuff that's anarchistic showing up in his future. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, and for all his I'm a futurist, he really was not a futurist. He was a stylist. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's nothing really. I mean, but anyway, so I'm in this, and this group is mostly based around aesthetics. That is,
Hmm.
design and that sort of thing. A lot of like concept art, design. So I was posting this. What is some examples of cassette futurism in fiction? What novels and several people post, and I actually argued that Neuromancer would be an example,
Uh-huh.
because of some of the stuff, because it really didn't foretell the future, you know. I mean, it did in aspects. It was obviously sci-fi, but it didn't. It missed out on a lot of stuff. The picture of the web was completely wrong. The picture of he predicted. We still have tube TVs. They still have payphones. There's no
Hmm.
cell phones. There's no a lot of that kind of stuff. But people kind of corrected me. And one of the examples that people talked about, it was Ringworld. Now I've decided since talking to him that if you want to read a book that is dedicated to the idea of cassette futurism, such as it is, the best thing to do would be read a science fiction book that was written in that time period,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I came up from talking to people, that's what
Yeah.
read some science fiction from the late 70s,
Sure.
you know.
John Bruner stuff where he's talking about
Yeah,
all this stuff.
yeah, yep, and that's what we were talking about John Bruner some last week, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, and so I had I got so Ringworld. I'm gonna when I go on the trip, I'm gonna take Ringworld with me to read, and you got me a copy of the audiobook, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna have that. I don't know if I'll listen to it. I'll probably read it, but I still want to have it. And
Sure.
because here's this weird thing, I checked it out from the library,
Hmm.
and I ran out of time to listen to it. It was an e-audio book on Overdrive,
Oh, okay.
and it's not in the system any. It's not in the system anymore.
Yeah. Well,
You can go
that's
through
why.
the.
Yeah, you surprised me when you said that because I thought I checked for that as a regular option. Yeah. I found it on YouTube.
It is right, but if you go on the Overdrive app, you can find it. But
Hmm.
if you go to the catalog, it's not there. And
Oh.
I'm convinced that it's part of that push to move away from Overdrive.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to check it out, and then I don't know if it's the same one you have a copy of, but I kind of wanted a copy of it, the audio
I don't know
book.
the one I managed to get isn't it's not grade A narration, but
Oh, really?
it'll do.
Maybe it's fan fiction, or maybe it's a
Yeah.
fan copy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I have a paperback of for that I had that I the one I read when I was a kid from like 1979, I think it is, of Ringworld, and then I have a copy of Ringworld Engineers, which is the sequel. I haven't read that. I never read that, but
I think I read it, and I remember. Yeah, he goes back and gets his own immersion again, and yeah, Tila is still there, but she's not
oh,
there
okay,
right away. Yeah.
okay, yeah, don't tell me anything about it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't remember much about Ringworld
Okay.
other than basically the setup,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, the whole idea of taking every bit of the mass in the solar system
Yeah,
and
making it,
investing it into
yeah,
circling your sun.
yeah. So I was gonna go downtown yesterday or tomorrow, but I can't because I got to work. I'm hoping they called the thing off, but I did go downtown a few weeks ago, and I bought this.
Oh,
I don't
well, let
know.
me look. Okay,
This
yeah.
is this is
I was
this
looking
was.
at cassette futurism actually instead of looking at our screen
Oh,
here.
were you okay?
Yeah.
Uh, but I got this. This is Claire Fontaine sketchbook,
Hmm.
and I haven't drawn in it yet. But but it's got a French flap on it. I think that's what they call it. This is how French art or sketchbooks are. You flap them back, and then I guess the page is perforated, but you can. Which I don't really care out of my book, but I don't know. Anyway, I kind of bought it. I went to that art supply place downtown, or that
Mm-hmm.
it's like a, you know what I'm talking about. I forget the name of it, but it's like a greeting card place, kind of little
Uh-huh.
stationery store. I
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
it there. I got to talking to the girl. I bought it just kind of a, sometimes I go to a place like that, and if I talk to the people, I'll buy something just to kind of, you know, like a tip jar or whatever. I paid
Yeah,
nine
exactly.
bucks.
Yeah.
They're about half that on Amazon, but I don't know. I kind of like the size. It's a nice little size. But anyway, I had that. I want to show you that. The I'm planning for my trip, and so I've been figuring out what I'm going to take with me to read and to draw on and to watch and
Sure.
all that jazz.
I'm
You know.
sadly got just a few days to finish a book that I need to, read a lot quicker than I like to read, unless I'm just really,
Mm.
turning pages. It's called Sheltering Sky, which I guess is a pretty classic little book. They made a movie of it. I'll find the movie after it's a John Malkovich movie. I'll track it down after I read it, if I read it. But it's kind of cool, and they've got this thing where these are really kind of like spoiled rich people that apparently
Yeah.
World War II is kind of happening all around them, but for whatever reason, they're able to ignore it and just get on with their rich, spoiled lives, being still world tourists.
Oh, really? That's
Uh
kind
huh.
of surprising.
Yeah, isn't that kind of a
What's
weird concept? Yeah, they're like in North Africa right now, just
Oh, you golly, yeah.
goofing off.
You'd think North Africa would be off
I
limits for
I think I'm,
tourists.
I'm going to look that up and see what the time is supposed to be. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but they're all talking about the war.
Maybe it's before. Maybe it's right before the
Yeah,
war.
it's either right. It might be right after it. Maybe
What's the name of the book again?
Sheltering Sky. I typed in
Did you get
Sheltering War. I had to.
did
I
you
had to
get?
get it in the interlibrary.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why you were such a, I got to turn it in kind of thing.
Uh, Travel to North Africa. The, the dangers that surround them. The film was adapted by Bertolucci in 1990 with this Deborah Winger and Malkovich. Huh. Hey, it says in a 1993 interview just prior to his accidental death on set, actor Brandon Lee quoted a passage from The Sheltering Sky. Lee had chosen this quote to be included in his upcoming wedding invitation. It is now inscribed on his tombstone.
No,
Wow,
no.
it's got quite a long. Because we don't know when we will die, we get to think of life as an inexhaustible well, and yet everything happens only a certain number of times, and a very small number, really. How many more times will you remember a certain afternoon of your childhood, an afternoon that is so deeply a part of your being that you can't even conceive of your life without it? Perhaps 4 or 5 times more, perhaps not even that. How many more times will you watch the full moon rise? Perhaps 20, and yet it all seems limitless. And then and then he dies after that. Man,
Yeah,
that's kind of wacky, considering he's just talking about, oh, life
yeah.
is so short.
Life
Yeah.
is so short. Little did he know how short it would be for him.
Yep.
Man, what a what a pisser.
Yeah, it is a pisser. You got a guy that is, got everybody's good looks and doing well,
Yeah.
you know, from a standpoint of everybody knows where you're at and where they can get a hold of you, and then you die.
And they want to.
And they want to. Nothing better
Just
than
go,
that.
man. It just goes to show you, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's why I
never
read it.
know,
I thought it
man.
might make us appreciative. I actually didn't know when I started if it was going to be good or not.
It's gonna be that downbeat.
Yeah. No,
It
I thought it was
for
good. I enjoy that kind of dark stuff every now and then.
you know, it is good. You know, I always I work with, of course, you know, a bunch of 20-somethings, and every once in a while they'll talk about something or another, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially during COVID. And I always tell them, hey, you know, the great thing is we're all gonna die one day, and they're like,
Oh
what?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Today I was telling them,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Well, I
Well,
was going to
today I
say
was telling.
okay.
Go ahead, Ellis.
Okay, I'll go. I was going to tell you that in terms of like things that you have as your childhood, you think you'll always have as part of you, that you'll always remember that you might get around to thinking about again or not. That just made me think of one from my childhood when a guy told me the first time that I was going to die when I was just a little kid. We were out playing, we were shooting each other with potato guns, where you these little guns that were pneumatic. You stuck
Yeah.
into a potato and they cocked themselves, and they'd shoot a little plug of potato at you. A brilliant invention. I'm sure it can't be found now because it put your eye out. But
Yep.
Anyway, he told me that, and man, I've never been so angry and upset in my life. Say, I'm not gonna die. Don't tell me that.
You know when I realized that I was. I
Well,
mean, I don't know how old you are, but
I must have been about 5
I'm a little bit older than that when the specter of
when it hit
death
you.
when
Well,
it hit
maybe
me.
I mean, running around at 5 like that. Maybe I was more like 7. I was about to come here. Well, I couldn't have been older than 7 because it was in Tulsa, and we got here in '60. So yeah, I would have had to have been as much as 7. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I read Tom Sawyer. Have you ever read Tom Sawyer?
Oh yeah.
You know the part where Indian Jim dies and he dies in the cave.
Yes.
That, as a kid, that whole thing just freaked me out. And it was just this realization, like, oh my gosh, that was like the first time I think I've realized like what death was. You
Yes,
know?
a
It was
bad guy like Indian Jim that ought to be able to move anything aside that he wants moved
well,
is
it was just,
thwarted. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, but Tom and I don't know if it was Tom and Huck or Tom and Huck and Becky or Tom. Anyway, Tom was lost in that cave,
Mm-hmm.
and Indian Jim was trying to kill him for some reason and follow him in the cave, and they didn't realize it. The townspeople realized that Tom was lost in the cave, and so when Tom got out, when they rescued him, they put a door over they put an iron door and locked it over the cave so
Yes. Uh-huh.
no one else could get lost in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that Indian Jim or Injun Jim or whatever his name was missing. And so finally Tom tells them, well, he followed us in the cave, and they go and they unlock the door, and Indian Jim is there with his eyeball to the crack between the doors, like looking out, and
Uh-huh.
and died and looking at it's just like this visual of this, and he was described as being pale and emaciated and all this kind of stuff. And
List of Tom
yeah.
Sawyer characters. Let's see. Sally and Silas Phelps, Aunt Polly, Mary, Sid Sawyer, Injun Joe. I thought it was Joe, but I was wondering, am I mixing?
I said Jim, didn't I?
Yeah, am I mixing that up with some Warner Brothers cartoon? It just seemed like, yeah, Injun Joe.
Sorry about that.
Do it again.
So no, that's at work when somebody in the room sneezes, we count how many times they sneeze.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
a high number sneezer. We got one guy that only sneezes once.
Well, yeah.
Somebody tried to tell me one time you took a minute of your life off every time you sneeze, and I said impossible. I'd be dead by now.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on how
There's
much
no
you
way I'm
enjoy
living.
it. Probably. I always enjoy my sneezes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my
They're
wife
good.
accuses me of making them loud. So, so I'm going on vacation, and like I said, I'm always trying to. My favorite go-to book on a vacation, and I every year when we went to San Diego, I always bought me an issue of Cinefex and would read it on the plane.
Oh yeah.
And there's no more Cinefex; they're out of business.
Yeah.
And I'm
Well,
so
yeah, just
bummed about
magazines
that.
in general. Yeah.
Well,
Do they?
magazines, but Cinefex, was I don't know if you're familiar, but it was kind of
Oh
the
yeah.
smallish, square-bound, great magazine. And I was
Oh,
going to take one,
I
and
used to have one on Kong. I love my one on King
oh
Kong.
yeah. So I think I'm going to take a sketchbook. I think I'm going to take my book. We've been talking. I'm going to take this.
Okay. Well, let me
Um,
look. I'm over here on this Huckleberry or Tom
oh,
Sawyer page. Let me look. Oh, how to draw superheroes. Buckler. Yep.
yeah. I've had this for a while, but okay. So I've gone through this epiphany about the pectoral muscles, and I've
Uh-huh.
realized I need to work on this, and so I'm gonna endeavor to do some sketches out of here, do some copying,
Take
and he
a.
goes through.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, he goes through, just some of the, or did you
Oh
have
yeah.
another
He's
suggestion?
got
What do you think I should
very.
take?
Oh, you know what? That's a great looking little book. That's a very nicely delineated bunch of line drawing there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a little his drawing's a little rough, but
Mm-hmm.
what you need is there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You just need communication. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, rather than take some kind of anatomy book, I would read. I thought I'd take this. I'll read it, but I'll sketch through it too.
Mm-hmm. I came
Anyway,
up
I'm
with
going
a
to take
kind of a
that and a
cool
ring
way to.
world and a sketchbook, and
You ought to have plenty of stuff on the plane, considering
yeah,
it
oh
seems
yeah,
like,
yeah.
if you go by just social media and such, it just feels like there's somebody having a meltdown on every plane. It's like,
Oh, I
you
know, it's
know,
ridiculous.
get the duct tape out. We gotta glue this guy to his seat. It's
Yeah.
like that. That's only thankfully happening just once in a while. I hope. But
Oh
and
yeah.
plus it's gotten a little more aggressive from the other end of it too. Those people playing host to you are no longer the chirpy little kids wanting to know what they can
No.
do for you. They're ready to box your ears if you don't do it right.
Oh, I don't know. You get out what you put in. I think
Yeah,
you get
sure.
on a plane and you kind of, you know. I'm not saying you necessarily.
Start bullying
I mean,
people.
no, but you know me. I'll go in and yuck it up with them for a minute, and then
Hmm.
and that's the great thing about like you go someplace and you're drawing, and man, everybody likes it. Oh, something you're drawing. You're an artist. That's
Hmm.
amazing. You know, do you want a pillow?
That guy that amazed me recently was, is it black? I think it's black. I thought I had a gray. I just
Oh no.
became Mike Mignola, thinking I was.
There you go, man.
Yeah,
Batman's got
there you
got a big old shadow on his neck.
go. Yeah, it may get a little more see through
Very,
here.
Batman has gotten very dark lately.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Who was talking about that? Someone was. Are
The new
you at
movie.
all interested in
We were
Doctor
talking.
Strange?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna go see it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So here's the funny way I was thinking about it. In
mhm.
fact, the tour that so for anybody that might be listening, normally on Fridays I get off at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, but they have a tour coming through at my work, so I can't leave at my normal time. I mean, it's the normal time. I have to work. I actually have to work late because of this, which just chaps me. And you know me. I mean, I'm all gung ho about work, but man,
Mhm.
you start interviewing, you start bleeding over to my personal time too much. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you mess with your
you know.
circadian rhythms, and
Well,
you
oh, dude. I
get
mean,
mad.
you know, I'm like I always point out to my wife, I was a latchkey kid, so I like my time, and I like to have control of my time,
Hmm.
and I don't like to be screwed with, or my time to be screwed. But anyway, uh, I so I was trying to figure out if I could, because the tour starts at 1:30, and so I was trying to figure out because I told my boss, I said, well, I'll probably take a long lunch or something, and then come back. Because, I mean, I'll probably work 6 hours of overtime tomorrow easily,
Hmm.
and or five. And so, because normally I work 2, and I normally work at till 9:30 or 10. But anyway, so I was trying to figure out if I could go downtown and watch Doctor Strange and be back in time. But somebody told me that it's 2.5 hours.
Hmm.
But I wasn't interested until I started reading people were like, "Oh, I don't like it," and they were complaining because, well, the thing that I read, they were complaining because it wasn't enough like WandaVision. Oh, and I didn't like WandaVision that much. It was okay, but it was just kind of, yeah. And they want to be more like WandaVision,
Hmm. That's
which I
interesting.
like Wanda as a character.
Hmm.
I just didn't like WandaVision. I thought it was kind of dull, you
Well,
know.
that's interesting. I'm just really interested if Sam Raimi is Sam Raimi again.
Yeah.
Still, you know,
Well, and I like Sam
that's all it
Raimi. I
will
mean,
take me to enjoy the movie is to if Sam Raimi brings the goods. Since
yeah,
Darkman is the best comic book movie ever made, he might make another one just like it. That's my opinion.
yeah. He could do another Dark Man.
Yeah.
I like Dark Man. I don't know if
Oh
I'd say it
yeah.
was the best comic book movie
Yeah.
ever made, but
I like to just go ahead and step off and declare it that because so many of the
yeah,
rest of them are,
yeah.
you know, little tissue
Why?
thin
Yeah.
compared to it.
Oh yeah,
I was
yeah.
seeing where I didn't know this. I don't know anything. In fact, I have to look up these people half the time and say in terms of like saying, "Have I ever seen any of their work?" But Johnny Depp's ex was in these Aquaman movies, and
Oh
apparently,
yeah.
which I still haven't seen
The
any of
second
them.
one hadn't come out yet.
Well,
Well, there's
I
only
haven't
been
seen any
two.
of
There's
this
only been
Justice
one
League.
out. Oh, you haven't?
I
Well,
haven't. No, they've
we
got
have eight.
they.
Well, do you
You've
have
got
HBO
HBO.
because of your phone,
Uh,
Ellis?
I don't think so. Why?
Are you AT&T?
No, I'm Sprint.
Oh, okay. I thought you were AT&T. I'm
Mm-mm.
AT&T, and if you have AT&T with a certain kind of plan, you get free HBO Max or whatever it's called.
Hmm.
That's where I've been watching The Sopranos,
Oh yeah.
and they have all of the DC stuff on there.
Oh, cool. Well, I say it's cool. I don't know if I'd like any of it if I started watching it. I've seen so
Well,
much of it.
okay, so I'm watching
What
the.
was the last thing I watched? I probably watched that first Wonder Woman. It was the last thing I saw.
Oh, that was weak.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, the one that I would suggest would be the Suicide Squad,
Yeah, see the James Gunn thing.
the
Yeah.
James Gunn one. That's pretty good. Um, I'm probably after I finish Sopranos, I'm probably gonna start watching some of the DC. I may watch Doom Patrol. I know you watch Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I got into much of it. Some of it was like, okay, come on, bring it back up to the quality. That's the deal when you watch any of this stuff. It's hard to remember that people just barely know what everybody else is doing. I mean, that's what a showrunner is about, is making sure it's coordinated. The writer's room all knows that everything that's going on and all that, but it still is going to come out uneven. And as I was finishing
Yeah.
off Ozark, it was like I had one segment that made me just stop, and I said, "Man, this is good writing. Why couldn't it have all been like this?" And it was toward the end, and then I checked on who wrote it because it amazed me, and it's oh, I used to have it written down out here somewhere so I can check it, see if I can find it again. Her name is well, it's an Asian name. No, I think is her last name. Yeah, I don't see it, but I think it. But anyway, she was just amazing. And then you look her up, and not only did she do this great job at writing, she was the person in charge of being pretty much the showrunner, the script consultant, and all that. And then I said, well, I got to look her up some more, and I found a podcast with her where a bunch of guys that probably want to be a little more in the a little more in the trade are chatting her up, wanting to know how everything works, you know. And so she's giving them all the
Yeah.
info. It's a real brain dump. It's pretty good. And she talks about her desire to just step into the role of writer. And that really amazed me. It's like, okay, so this was like, she only did like 3 scripts for the whole show. And she got that good that quick. That was crazy. And didn't have a trace of accent, you know, as an Asian, well, born, I guess, in China at one time. Kind of an amazing person. Actually makes you kind of, gives you an inferiority complex is what it does. If you're saying, what made her? What makes me different?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, my wife and I were talking about that today while we were eating supper. Just
Yeah.
kind of this idea of, it's like when sometimes you get slapped in the face with like, yeah, I'm not doing it right.
Yeah. You don't want to do that, of course. You don't want to compare yourself to much of anything, but you know, it's good to
No, that's
take a
dangerous.
little bit of what should I be doing? You know, I mean, and you know, if it takes comparing yourself to something to motivate you, maybe it's good.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, but I also think like, I don't know. I mean, and I've kind of been in this weird headspace anyway because of that kind of thing, because the New York Comic Con Pro Badge applications have come out,
Mm-hmm.
and my comic book is coming out it soon-ish in September,
Mm-hmm.
and so our mutual friend has been like, oh, you need to go to the con.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on in my book. And of course, he doesn't care about that. He just wants to
Yeah, he just
go.
wants to roam around.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. I want to go and sell books and make money and promote my book and do that. But I don't know. So I contacted my publisher and was like, hey, I'm thinking about going to New York. Will my book be out? What can I. And it's basically like, well, everybody wants to go to New York. Because I was like, can I use it as a reference? Can I do the, and it's like, well, never got much. I didn't get a lot of positive response to that. And it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, oh, my book is coming out. It's like, oh, this is, I don't know. In your head, you like, oh, this is going to do well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, maybe this isn't the stepping stone I thought it would be to something. I don't know what. I
Oh
mean,
well,
even though
what can comics stepping stone you to? I mean, it's like
nothing,
you really have
well,
yeah,
that's
you have to have something just totally catch fire that and it's probably not going to be Heaven's Rejects in terms of like you know
well,
something
that's
that
the thing.
lights the you know public's imagination in a way it hadn't been lit before.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing is like I look at that, I look at comics and I go, well, okay, so, for a long time, the thing was you wanted to do something and then get noticed and get,
Mm-hmm.
and the big thing was, oh, I want to get a job working for DC or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or Marvel, get a bit, but, I look at it now and I'm like, well, they don't offer insurance, the pay that I would take unless I could do it on the side, which I could. I think if I had an inker and I had the right motivation, because they give you 6 weeks to do a comic, I think I could do it, but it would kill me. I mean, I'd have to quit everything. There'd be no
Mm-hmm.
more fun. But it would be worth it if you could do it and keep your day job and keep all the advantages that go with it, because the pay is not good,
I'm really
and
surprised
so
there's not some digital equivalent of Charlton out there that has such a that has a great thing going, but it's entirely dependent on the fresh content keeping rolling down the line. Like the Lucy show with chocolates.
well,
You know.
well, yeah. Well, what's funny is when I was a kid, reading about comics and about breaking in, it was like, well, you got to do work. The idea was always, well, you got to work at a smaller company. And literally, Charlton was the only, like Charlton and
Yeah.
Archie were the only other companies when I was a
And I
kid.
could, yeah, I could always tell like, ooh, Charlton is not as good. They were just
Hmm.
slightly off. They were slightly off. Hey, I'm gonna go get the
Well,
rest of my coffee. I'll be right back.
okay. Looking at Ellis's drawing, I'm not sure what he's drawing there. I can see it on my screen. Anyway, well, I'll finish the story when Ellis gets back. But my takeaway is that mainstream comics ain't what they used to be. Um, and I was going to tell Ellis what if I don't think I told him what I discovered about page rates that he might find interesting. Um, we'll see when he gets back. Anyway, hope everybody out there is doing well. Thank you for watching us tonight.
Okay. Hey, those are
Okay,
looking pretty
so
good, Scott. Go ahead.
oh, thanks. Yeah, this is my big sketchbook that I
Uh-huh.
think I'm going to take this with me. The So I was leading all up to this because Charlton was like, when I was a kid, Charlton was like, I was reading an interview with John Byrne, and he was saying when he first broke into comics, he was working at Charlton.
Oh
Hey,
yeah. Oh, he did. He did
hold
some
that up
great
to the
work.
camera.
Oh, what? Mine?
Hold your paperwork up to the camera again. I was looking at
Okay.
that. What is that?
Well, there's this one guy is kind of like doing his typical like I've lost my balance. And then there's a guy
Oh yeah.
with
What
a
is that
big
guy?
buckle on his LA, and then there's a guy that has got much darker shadows than I planned on him having.
Oh yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you do? What kind of paper is that? That looks big. That's bigger than your normal
Uh,
paper, isn't it?
it's 8.5 by 11,
Oh,
but
okay. Is
it's
it typing?
nice. It's nice card
And
stock.
thick?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Hmm.
found I don't have it in here. Man, at Walmart in their office supply, they sell a paper that I want to most like copier paper's 20 pound. It's
Hmm.
really thin. They sell one that's like 32 pound, and
Uh-huh.
it's just thick enough. I mean, it's not cardstock. I don't know where you got that cardstock. It's not cardstock, but it's like a nice paper,
Well, you go
and
to
it's cheap.
like Staples. They'll have card
Oh,
stock.
is that where you got that?
I think so, probably.
Okay. Anyway, so back to what I was saying. So I was so if you were to break in at Marvel right
Hmm.
now as an artist, they would pay you, I think it's around 150, 160 a page.
Can you imagine how
And
gross that is, really, for the effort spent?
uh, oh
You
my
know, you can't,
gosh.
you can't, you can't get it done quicker
And
than
here's
one a
the
day. It's $150 a day. I guess a guy
no.
could look at that way and say, well, but it's like a long day.
Well,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you do the math, it ends up being like $40,000 a year, which
Yeah.
and but
That's a guy with
you have to pay self-employment. You
yeah.
have to pay self-employment taxes.
Hmm.
And by the way, that's not, I make more than that. So to me, comics would be a step back in, and especially when you consider benefits and employment tax and all that stuff. But so I was reading an article about John Byrne, or an interview with John Byrne. He was saying when he first broke in at Charlton, he made $50 a page. Now in my head, I've always had this romantic idea of, hey man, if you worked in comics in the Bronze Age, you're doing it and you're not making a lot of money, but you're loving what you're doing and you're doing all this cool stuff, and it's a fun place, all this kind of stuff. However, if you put that in an inflation calculator, and I did this a couple months ago, so with our runaway inflation, it may be worse than this, but it's the equivalent. When John Byrne was making $50 a page, was equivalent like $280 a page nowadays. So these starvation rates he was getting at Charlton back in the early 70s or mid 70s was about double what they're making now at Marvel
Yeah.
or DC. I thought that was crazy, or Marvel at least. I think DC pays better, but I've heard a lot of people complain about Marvel's rates. You know. Anyway, so I pretty much decided if I'm going to draw mainstream comics, it's going to have to either be something I own and get a chunk of,
Oh, that's the only way to
or
do it. That's the only way you ought to be thinking of doing it. Yeah.
well, if the, well, the guy that's really got the gig is John Byrne. Drawing his own
Oh
comic,
yeah.
drawing X-Men, his own X-Men, and then just selling the pages for a
Yeah.
couple $1,000.
Yeah.
But he's
That
fast
is
enough. He
quite
can
a
do one.
gig. That is quite a gig. Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
wonder. I
yeah.
wonder how many
Well, and
people he's got that are giving him a predictable like couple of thousand. I mean, or $10,000 a month. Maybe somebody is feeding him just to get a few pages. That's pretty amazing. I don't know how many rich people he's
yeah.
got as patrons, but I'd think you'd have to be if you
Oh, I think
tried to
his
get a
stuff
lot.
sells. I think his stuff sells pretty quickly, from what I understand. I mean, he has a art dealer that has them all on his page. So I mean, you could look and see how many he couldn't sell, but I think
Hmm.
most of his stuff sells pretty quick.
Yeah,
You know.
you would get picky about which page you wanted. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that would be the gig, I think. To be like,
It'd be
hey,
the
I can
ultimate.
draw
The ultimate.
comics. I can draw comics. I don't have to mess with editors or anything. I'm drawing the characters I want, and I'm drawing the characters I want, and I'm drawing the story I want, and I'm
I
not relying on sales. I'm just relying on art sales. And I mean, he has enough money that he doesn't have to worry about it.
hmm
But uh, it's all gravy for him. Um,
But
I'm gonna ask.
that's the deal. He's still doing it because of the love of it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's just no other way to think of that. He loves that. He loves that. And what I dig about it is that that's his muse. He gets touched by the best thing a person can have in life, that creative thing. When they feel that, they are at their happiest. They feel the most fulfilled.
Yeah.
And all of us are that way, but there aren't many of us that realize that that's all it takes. That, hey, man, find out what you really dig doing, that something that makes you sweat and it's hard and all that. But boy, do you feel good from doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So I was going to ask you, were you ever into anime?
Not particularly. I always really admire this stuff. I finally do dip in and sample, because it's always, uh, worthwhile. I like the stuff that naturally is just off the charts good. The Studio Ghibli stuff, all that. That's everybody recognizes that
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
And
the
that's not true.
Akira's and the
Yeah. Yeah, and My Neighbor Totoro and all that. And my favorite is Castle in the Sky, the Laputa. Good stuff. Which I guess is a
oh yeah,
Jonathan Swift story, or rather, it's a part
mm,
of the
what I think I'm confusing Castle in the
Gold Rush.
Sky.
It's part of Gold Rush Travels. Laputa.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey, I saw your picture with Jack Kirby.
Yeah. I put that on. Yeah, and I instantly, I might not have the same guys react to my stuff all the time, but apparently everybody that's in that picture that was there has reacted to it with something, with a joke, or something. The funniest one is a guy named Ben Montag. I'd always,
Oh, I think I read his.
yeah, about his hair. Proof of hair.
Oh no, I didn't. No, he's not the guy that I. What did he
You
say?
probably read Benefiel, that he was towering. He was towering over
Yeah,
Kirby.
towered over Jack Kirby.
Yeah, yeah. Benefiel
Everybody.
Benefiel was dependable. He would be working for these Malibu and uh, a couple of other companies that he got freelance for back in the day. And when we were in the studio together, and he would invariably fill up the margins on all his pages with little jokes, and they were usually pretty good crack ups, pretty funny. He
Was
had
he
a great
illustrated, or did
gag
you just write him
writing.
in?
Yeah, just write him in. He had a great gag writing
Oh,
sensibility.
that's funny.
Hmm. Writing gags. He should have been doing Dilbert.
Yeah, yeah, Scott Adams was.
Yeah. That was the thing. Uh, Scott was very aware of, uh, Larson at the time, and he
Oh
knew that he
yeah,
was looking at a kind of, and in fact, he did his own little gag strip called Cork. It's a pretty damn good little gag strip, but stuff doesn't land. It doesn't land. I think his
yeah,
problem is he's just too damn good an artist. There's a step off to where you don't find things funny if they're just gloriously well rendered. And
yeah, yeah.
Scott just can't keep himself from just, being as good an artist as he is. He's got to render it just the way he renders.
Hey, you are what you are, man.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Whereas Larson,
can't.
it's funny to read, Larson candidly talk about stuff about drawing. He was trying to draw as well as he could draw, and Adams is the same way. Adams says, "Oh, people draw better than me," but you can tell he's proud of his drawing ability. And it's like, man, Scott, you're just barely getting it done there. But he's not really. The compositions, the
No,
the character designs, especially character design, that all has to be genius first, And Larson especially. God, that guy. If you start trying to duplicate Larson, you realize the compositions that Larson came up with to stage his jokes. Man, try to match that. He's really good.
yeah. Yes, I agree. I love the Far Side.
Yeah.
We didn't realize how good we had it in comic strips at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and now, of
It's
course,
like-
you don't go toward a dying medium like that. There's nobody trying to become newspaper syndicates.
We get the paper, and there's still comic strips in there, and there's
Oh,
some
yeah.
new stuff, but it's not the same. I mean,
Mhm.
there's always somebody trying to do something, but it's not that. I mean, just the volume of papers isn't there like there was back then.
Oh, no.
No. Again, this goes back to we went off the track in '99, Ellis. Y2K, Y2K. We live in a post Y2K reality.
Yeah, I mean, no.
I think
The end of the '90s like that is definitely, that was my high period. '95 was awesome, and I'm so happy I got to experience San Diego from '85 to as long as I lasted. Toward the end of when I was there, of course, is when it's taken the downturn. But man, I had a plum time to be there.
Oh yeah, going to San Diego. Hell, dude, you
Every
just posted
year.
a picture. You at Jack Kirby's house. You have nothing to complain about.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
so many
you have
things that
nothing
just
to
fell
complain
into my
about.
lap. Yep. And that came about, that guy I'm sitting right in front of is old Shell Dwarf. I think it was like day 2 of coming to San Diego. Someone in Texas had given me a number that when they found out I was moving to San Diego, said, "Well, look this guy up, Shell Dwarf, the founder of the Comic-Con."
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Looked him up next day, and Shell is one of these guys that, "Oh, welcome to the Sheldorf universe. Yeah, let's be friends." He's that guy, and we were pretty fast friends immediately. And he became part of the. He introduced me to Brent Anderson about the 3rd day, and then, about 2 weeks later, he took me to Los Angeles, and I was in Forey Ackerman's Acker Mansion, looking at
Oh my gosh.
original Virgil Finlays and the actual armature of King Kong. It's like, hey,
Oh my gosh.
how does all this stuff happen to little old me? Because I knew somebody, and again, this goes to like knowing a guy like Doug. There's guys that once you get to know them, kind of like pay off. They've got more interesting lives than you. But Shell was kind of annoying because he was kind of like forcing the idea of having an interesting life because he was lettering Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
He got in on the like insider group for the Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy, and all of a sudden he was like a guy that thought he was entitled to Warren Beatty's personal phone number. Hey, look, somebody's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like he had that kind of personality where he was like, "Hey, me and Warren need to talk about this. This occurs to me. I need to talk to him." And he would be seriously trying to get a hold of Warren Beatty, not even joking about
Warren
it.
Beatty was just dying to.
Yeah. But that was, you could say the charm of Shell. I don't think a lot of people were charmed by it. He had people that really really didn't like him. I was surprised about how much. There's another Scott. He's a pretty rotund guy. Scott. He does kind of like Fred Flintstone kind of little comics. I think he had something that was.
Is that Scott Shaw?
That's it. Boy, he hates him a Sheldorf.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he had somehow tracked down some sort of little post I had with that I made on a blog one time and just laid it on thick on stuff Shell had done. And I guess, this comes about from, being around those Comic Cons. You can get little fights going on, little feuds,
Oh, yeah. Well, there's always people that are like, hey,
Yeah.
you stepped on my toes.
Yeah.
Wasn't Scott Shaw, was he one of the guys that, no, I guess he wasn't one of the guys that hung around Kirby, was he? I'm thinking that's Evonier and Royer. No,
and again, that visit to Kirby, that's all Dorf, and we weren't the only people that Dorf was showing off his influence there with. He had a couple other little groups that he was rude enough to ask Jack if he could come by with.
Oh yeah.
There's probably quite a few pictures floating around with Shell Dorf in the group shot and Jack Kirby.
In Kirby's basement.
Yeah. I need to look that up. I'll do that as a search. Shell Dorf and Jack Kirby. See how many times that occurs.
Probably a few.
And
I feel like when was this? Was Kirby?
It would have been early '90s. Kirby died in '94.
Oh yeah, so this was end of the road.
Yep. Oh yeah. He was no longer drawing at that point. His wife went into a little area and brought us out a little prints or something that he signed, and I don't even believe he could manage his signature. So I believe there was a little thing that went on there with the signature making. I don't think we each got one. Otherwise, I'd have my copy still. Yeah.
Would you?
I think I would.
You managed to lose stuff over the years.
Oh man, I've got a lot of stuff in the road left behind me. Yep.
I've decided I need to get back on my single issue comic book. I did some pages and I've done some other stuff, and it's like, man, I had my script. So one of my goals on my trip is going to be to get my thumbnails nailed down. I kind of had thumbnails, but it wasn't. I don't know. I need to get it hammered out a little bit. I need to work on some character. I didn't really have any character designs. I need to work on some character designs and just come up with something kind of cool.
Cassette future characters.
There you go.
Very good.
Well, I asked you if you watched anime, because I've been watching, because the overlap with the cassette futurism and anime is in a different group that is like retro, kind of an 80s group. It's an anime, it's like classic anime group is what it is. I forget the exact name of it, but somebody said, what is the most 80s anime that you can think of? And everybody says Bubblegum Crisis. And so I've been watching that. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I've been watching it. It's on YouTube. And I've been watching it, and I'm like, holy cow, this is it takes me back.
Is it mecha?
Facebook.
It's mecha, isn't it?
No. Not really.
Okay.
No. Not like a lot of them. It's these 4 girls that have armor suits, kind of like Iron Man.
It's mecha.
And in the city, mecha is typically bigger.
Yeah.
This is more like Iron Man. But anyway, Anyway, there's robots in the city that are kind of like Terminator. They look human, and they'll go berserk and cause havoc, and then at some
Uh-huh.
point they'll transform into like, they'll burst out of their human skin and become like this Terminator kind of thing, and
Demons. They're
they're
big on
defeat.
things becoming demons in Japanese stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
anyway, I've been watching that, and I like some of the aesthetics in that show. So I
I'm gonna
may
look it up now. Bubblegum Crisis. I've probably seen a few of them. Maybe.
there's a YouTube channel that there's 8 episodes, has all 8 episodes in one video, kind of mushed together.
Oh, really? Not a
I'll,
playlist,
se-
just
I'll,
all run together, huh? That'll be good.
well, there's spaces between them, but
Hmm.
I mean you can see where each one ends. But
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
send you the link when we get done.
Okay. Which
It's the
we
only one
could
I
be we
found that's
could
not.
we could be done if you felt like it. I guess we've been at it an hour, but
Yeah, it's time, and I got a long work day
yeah,
tomorrow.
a long, frustrating,
Uh,
irritating work day.
well, I don't want to go in. I don't want to. I don't want to stay late, and I have to. It sucks.
Yeah.
But whatever. Got a job, right?
Yep. That's what it is.
Even though I've told
That's
my
why they
wife.
that's why they pay you money. Oh, look at that. Look at that deltoid on that guy. That's great, Scott. That's it's
Oh,
so much better than that way you had been doing it of just a little semicircle that
yeah.
finished off the operation. You could go back over every one of those that you feel like
Oh, yeah. Through
is
here and fix them all.
yeah, you could do erasures and say, hey, let's fix that deltoid. Let's fix that deltoid. Whatever.
Nothing stopping me for
Yeah,
sure.
no, it's all in pencil
Well,
mostly.
no, sure. What's funny? What's funny? I think I told you this. Because you've kind of been talking to me. Well, you've been talking to me about this, and I've known that I've struggled with the shoulder for a long time.
It's
Just
hard.
kind of,
It's the most difficult put together part of the body because it moves so much.
well, and just the way that the way to depict the way that the muscles overlap and
Sure.
wrap around each other.
Yeah. All those
I've always
volumes.
struggled with that,
Yeah.
and I kind of thought I had a good idea, but you kept telling me you need to, don't. I would draw, and then I'd kind of add on the shoulders, like no, 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 and so I've kind of in my head I kind of was like, okay, I need to make sure that I draw the rib cage and leave that space at the top for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
deltoids,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you harping on me about the pec muscles
Hmm.
really kind of made it all fall in place where I realized, okay,
That
this is what I'm doing wrong,
that is what makes it all fall in place is that you realize that every muscle that's like that is next to itself and flowing over itself and
Hmm.
forms these beautiful rhythms, basically like ornamental curlicues.
Yep.
If once you figure out that all of it's flowing around it, so that's the deal. Kirby could be light on anatomy, but he was never light on gesture. The stuff
Yeah.
was always, flowing over itself and all that. And it didn't matter if the muscles were totally right. Who cares? He had the energy of
Yeah.
how things were going back to origins and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's call it a day.
Okay, let's call it. Hey, good talking to you,
Eh,
Scott. Time passed quick for me because I actually got involved in drawing tonight, so it surprised me to look up and find we'd been at it an hour. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. A little bit more actually, but anyway, and
Well,
I
I hope you
won't
get a
be
break
able to
tomorrow.
record.
Oh, you won't be able to
Well,
record
I'm
tomorrow.
hoping. Well, hopefully, I would love to go to work and they go, well, the tour's been canceled. I'm gonna
Ah,
pack for work because I was planning on going downtown and
uh-huh.
maybe watching Doctor Strange and
Yeah.
maybe just walking around and drawing because the weather's supposed to be beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Well, then now I have to work late. But if I got to work, I got to work.
Yep.
Next week I can't record because we'll be on vacation, and Thursday I will be out with. Well, that's the day I'm going to hang out with my ex-boss, so we'll probably be at their house. So,
Ah, cool.
and Florida's an hour ahead. Well, yeah, Florida's an hour ahead, but actually, no, where they're at same time zone. So, yeah, I won't be able to record.
That seems odd. How could you ever be in the
What?
same time zone in any part of Florida? I wouldn't think they could ever sync
The
up with us.
panhandle is in
In Central
Florida has two
Standard
time
Time?
zones.
Wow.
Florida has two time zones. What's crazy is my friend in Michigan, my rider, he's an hour ahead of us. He's
Huh.
Eastern time, and I'm like, how is that possible?
How is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Michigan is far enough. It's weird. The
Hmm.
Panhandle of Florida is the same time zone we are. Now, if you go to Orlando, it's a different time zone. It's weird that the time zone would cut through the state, I think, but whatever.
Well, I guess it'd have to. I mean, it really is dependent on. Hey, it's dark here. We
Yeah,
can't call this 7 o'clock.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, man. I'll talk to you later. Hey, thanks for sending me the Ring World thing.
You betcha. We're ending now. Thank everybody that eventually sees us.